What's up brothers, this is OuweSok, and in this Battle Models video I want to be talking to you about the two-handed mace. The two-handed mace, in my opinion, is the best weapon in the game, and is one of the very few weapons that I actually often buy in a shop. Usually I only buy weapons in the very first days of the campaign. I will buy famed weapons and I will buy two-handed maces, basically. So the two-handed mace, you can see it on the screen here, 75 to 95 damage, respectable, 50% ignore armor, which is really good, armor damage, 125%, quite good. But the best thing of the two-handed mace is that it also dazes the opponent. And daze is a really strong effect. So let's have a look at what daze does. 25% less damage, 25% less initiative, and 25% less fatigue for the dazed opponent. And 25% less damage, we can play around with this and see what kind of effect it actually has on hit points that are lost when you're hit by the enemy. So let's for example take a brother with radar gear, 110 armor, 105 helmet, Battleforged no. And he's being attacked by a Chosen with a Rusty Warblade. The Rusty Warblade does 80 to 100 damage, so take 90 as the average. It has 110 armor damage and 35% armor penetration. So the effect is that it will do 99 armor damage, 110% of 90, meaning that armor will drop to 11. The damage to the hit points will be 35% of 90, which is 31.5. And the way armor works in this game is that 10% of the remaining armor is reduced, so that's 1.1. And the hit point loss will be 30.4. I'm not sure how rounding is done in this game, so I've given it in 1 decimal, but maybe this will be 30, maybe this will be 31. I'm not exactly sure. So if your brother in radar gear is hit with a Barbarian Cleaver, he gets 30 damage, 30 hit points. Now give this Barbarian, make him dazed. So that means that he only does 67.5 damage, which means 74.3 armor damage. The armor penetration will be 23.6. There will be a little bit more of armor prevention, and at the end the damage done to the brother by the dazed Chosen is 20.1. So by reducing the damage of the Barbarian by 25%, it actually reduces damage to your brother by 34% approximately. And what happens if you increase armor? So for example, give him the Mail Hauberk and 200 helmet. Now the armor prevention is bigger, and the normal Chosen ends up doing about 20 hit points damage, but the dazed Chosen does 10 hit points damage. So by increasing the armor on your brother, the dazed effect has protected the brother by about 50% on the hit points. And if you go a little bit further and give the brother Battleforged, so yes, here, then the damage done to hit points reduces to even more, so 46%. So it's 54% approximately is prevented by having this enemy being dazed. And if we go up with armor even further and give him 300, then the normal attack does about 8 points of damage, and the dazed Barbarian does 0 damage to your brother. So that's quite useful. It means also no bleeding, which triggers at 6 damage. So what you see here is that the dazed effect has a positive synergy with armor and Battleforged. And as a conclusion, maybe you can say it's a good idea. It makes sense that your Mace brother is the one who gets the best armor in the game, that you have, the best armor that you have in your team, because he, because of the synergy with the dazed effect, he will get more profit out of it. And if you have, for example, two similar brothers, one is going to have a great axe and the other is going to have the two-handed mace, then maybe give the two-handed mace to the brother that has less hit points, because he will be better protected. His hit points will be better protected by the dazed, and the great axe brother can then have the more hit points, because he doesn't have this protection. So that's a couple of ideas that if you're building your two-handed brothers, what kind of things you should be looking at. So let's have a look at a couple of my two-handed brothers, two-handed maces brothers. I've got two here. They are quite similar. So I give them Colossus, give them Pathfinder, so that I can save on fatigue when I'm traveling. For example, a simple move 4 in the desert will cost you 25 fatigue without Pathfinder, and 12 with Pathfinder, so that will save you 12 fatigue. And during an entire battle, this can increase significantly and allow you maybe to hit twice with Berserk a couple of times without fatiguing out. Quick hands, so that you can quick hands to the pole mace. Mace mastery for the 100% stun instead of 75, and the fatigue reduction. Underdog, Berserk, Battleforged, as we just seen. The two-handed mace has positive synergy with Battleforged, a heavily armored brothers, so really it makes no sense to create dodge nimble two-handed mace brothers. I've given them both Fearsome and Killing Frenzy. A couple of perks you could play around with. For example, Gifted. You could maybe give him Steel Brow, or you can give him Fortified Mind if he has insufficient resolve. You can play around here and there with your mace brother. What I wouldn't do, and what sometimes I hear people suggest, is to give him Dagger Mastery and a Katal Dagger. I mean, the idea is clear. You want to be adjacent to an enemy, hit him with a mace, quick hands to the dagger, and perform a death blow, which is a lot of extra damage. But I've been trying this, and I have not been very happy with how this works. I prefer to save this perk and give the brother another perk, like for example Gifted or Brownie, or the other ones that I mentioned. So Fortified Mind or Steel Brow, and give the brother Goblin Pike instead. Goblin Pikes serve the same purpose as the Katal Dagger. You can quick hands to them and get more damage out of your AP. The best example is you move with your brother, hit him with a two-handed mace, kill the enemy. Berserk triggers, you go from 1 to 5 AP. Now you can switch to the Goblin Pike and hit an enemy at a distance of 2. So that's extra damage. And there's a little bit more tricks that you can do with Goblin Pikes, like move, attack, and move back, so that you remain out of range of the enemy, maybe a Berserker or a Chosen or Lindworm. You don't want to get into their range, so the Goblin Pike helps you sometimes in these kinds of occasions. I've dedicated an entire video to the Goblin Pike, so you might want to check that out if you want to learn a bit more about how I use the Goblin Pike. Give them a pike and give them another perk, and don't give them the Katal Dagger. That's what I would suggest. Now let's have a look at the Dagger Dualist. So Dagger Dualist is a dodge nimble build that evolves about being able to attack 3 times with the Katal Dagger. have Relentless, so that you can wait and then go first in the next round. Overwhelm, so that you can attack 3 times your opponent and overwhelm 3 times, so it will really hard for him to hit back. Dodge Nimble for the extra defense. And what I do with Dagger Brothers, Dagger Dualist, is I give them Quick Hands as one of the last perks for 2 reasons. First reason is that I can switch to the Obsidian Dagger, which is very useful against humanoid opponents, especially Chosen. If you can kill a Chosen with the Obsidian Dagger and he resurrects as a Chosen Wiedergänger fighting for you, that's a really good lightning rod for the enemy. He will absorb some hits and save your brother some hits. So that's really useful. And the other thing I'm doing now is I give my Dagger Dualist a 2-handed mace, so that he can quick hands to a 2-handed mace. So why do I do this? Because in my opinion, the Katal Dagger, the Dagger Dualist, has a couple of issues. And the first one issue is that it has problems killing heavily armored opponents like Ancient Undead, or an Orc Warrior or a Chosen. I'm okay with 1v1 any of these opponents. Because of Overwhelm, they will barely hit me and I will kill them probably before they can even hit me once. But doing this just with the Katal Dagger is going to cost you a lot of turns. Cost you 3, 4, 5 turns maybe before the enemy goes down. This is really fixed by also having the mace available so that you can deal with armored opponents. And the other example, the other advantage that the mace has in this build, and is where the actual idea that you have of hitting with the mace, following up with the dagger, is actually going to work, is because of initiative. So a battle-forged Mace Brother will have really shitty initiative, and to start your turn adjacent to an opponent probably means that they have been able to hit you before you have been able to hit them. And that's not something that you really want, especially if they're dangerous opponents like Chosen or an Orc Berserker. You really want to be the one that hits first. And with the Dagger Dualist, you can do this. You can start your turn with the wait command and then move to the intended enemy, maybe dagger them once, and then at the end of the turn switch to the mace. The next turn you will go first. You can hit them with the mace, switch to the dagger and do the death blow. That's really easy to pull off, and it works really well against a big range of opponents. So I found that giving a dagger to a Mace Brother, to a 2-handed Mace Brother, is not very efficient. But giving a 2-handed mace to the Dagger Dualist actually works really well. Even though we already, let's say, established that Dazed has a better effect with high armor and with Battleforged, but the Dagger Dualist is a build that tries to not get hit ever. So and if you can daze your opponent, death blow, maybe they have already dropped their morale, they are dazed, they're overwhelmed twice, they're just basically going to be really inefficient to fight back. So yeah, that's what I want to say about daggers and the 2-handed mace. The 2-handed mace obviously also has the stun attack. Sounds really powerful, but I barely use it. I barely use it because it uses up a lot of fatigue, 28 instead of 13, and if you have the mastery it will be 12 and 23, still a lot more fatigue. I prefer to daze the opponent. I would use a stun against fallen heroes especially if they're possessed, especially if they have a dangerous weapon like a great axe or a two-handed flail. So fallen heroes are pretty good stun targets because they are stunned for 2 rounds. They don't have resilient. There's a couple of other enemies that are really dangerous and don't have resilient. That are the Swordmaster, Blade Dancer, Assassin. So that's also these are also enemies that you might consider stunning. But yeah, generally I use to stun very few on the two-handed mace. I use stun a decent amount with the pole mace because the pole mace doesn't daze. So if I want to have to weaken the enemy further, then the stun makes more sense. And the one-handed mace also makes more sense to use stun than with the two-handed mace. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about the two-handed mace. I think I covered everything I wanted to say. So the positive synergy with heavy armor, and the possibility to give your dagger dualist the flank mace and make them more efficient. Hope this has been useful for you. Hope you can use this information for your own builds and your own roster. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game. Bye bye.